And the last question is inspired by our demigod's eyes, his red eyes. Have you ever played laser tag?
Yes, I have played laser tag,
Excellent.
and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I wish more people were still playing laser tag.
Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Pass, and today I'm joined by Miles Doleac, the director and co-writer of Demigod, which is coming to theaters and on demand on October 15th, 2021. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first let's check out the trailer, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Miles Doleac, the director, co-writer, and star of Demigod, which is releasing in theaters and on demand on October 15th, 2021. So thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
So I guess, because you're kind of everything, I can ask you all sorts of questions. So, the first question would be like, what inspired this film? Was it just like a really bad wilderness Airbnb experience, or where did this idea come from? And I'm sure there was some collaboration between you and your other writer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, I'm a big fan of the folk horror genre, going all the way back to that awesome Michael Mann film that he's disowned from the 80s, The Keep. I don't know if you know that film or remember it, with Ian McKellen, Gabriel Byrne. It Comes at Night is another one that immediately comes to mind that I really love. This film had the same producing team as my previous film, The Dinner Party. And after we were wrapping that film, we really wanted to jump on another project together very quickly to maintain the momentum we had generated on that project. And so Mike, my co-writer, Mike Horn, had this Wild Hunt script that he wanted us to read and consider for production. And so he sent it to me, and I thought it had really good bones. We dug in and started working on it together. I brought some of my own ideas to the table. My partner in all matters creative and life, Lindsay Williams, who's also a producer on this, she had some great ideas, including explicitly naming Cernunnos as our hunter character and expanding on that mythology. And we got it to a place we were really excited about. Knew we had access to woodland locales in Mississippi where we shot the film. Yeah, spoiler alert, we didn't get to go to the Black Forest. Budgetary constraints, the indie producer's plight. But the thing about forests in Mississippi, it's a lot of evergreens, it's pine trees and spruce trees and fir trees, a lot of what you would see in the Black Forest. So it's a pretty good approximation. So one of the things you're always looking for with an indie film is limited cast, limited locations, and this story had that, while at the same time allowed me to pursue some themes and ideas that are really meaningful to me in the realm of ritual and religion and mythology and family ties and lineage and these sorts of things that we've been playing with the last few films.
I like hearing that there was this kind of like hunt genesis of the film, because it did feel like a film that had kind of two parts, right? The first part was kind of like you said, like a lineage, like a family exploration, like a little bit of an unsettling horror film, and then it went into a more hunt type, survivalist type of movie. And so it sounds like the second part was maybe the kernel, and then you had to build that out, backwards, essentially.
Right. That's effectively what we did. That was sort of the embryo of the thing, right? The hunt, based on wild hunt mythology and narratives from the Black Forest in Germany, centering around the god, who's sort of the master of the Germanic wild hunt, and is cognatic with Cernunnos deity that we ultimately chose. But yeah, that's kind of exactly how it went. We built it out from that hunt core, that survivalist core. And really, we're very, very fortunate to land somebody like Rachel Nichols to play our lead character and to explore this, very complicated relationship she has with her family, and their connection to the Cernunnos cult, and of course, especially her grandfather.
Yeah, and so I want to definitely talk about Rachel Nichols in a second. But the one thing I was curious about, and it sounds like you kind of answered this, is with a folk horror movie, it could be based on like some real legends, right? You just don't know, because that's kind of the beauty of a folk horror film. So it sounds like there was, this is based on Germanic legends, and maybe you created your own entity, but some of the ideas were based on German myths and things like that.
Yeah, so especially with regard to, we took some birdies. We made him a little more sinister than he's typically depicted. And we certainly played with the design of that character. Cernunnos is typically depicted as a man with a long beard and the horns of a stag, and long flowing robes. We wanted to make Cernunnos a little wilder and more animal, and with, more closely connected with the natural realm that he's trying to protect. And so we gave him a bit more of this creature element. But I've said this in several interviews. I love vegetation deities. I love nature deities. They're the worst, man. They are so vicious, and when crossed, they will really take you down. And whether we're talking about Dionysus or Demeter or in Herny and Dispater, who is a Roman god that Cernunnos shares some attributes of, and it makes so much sense, because of course the human beings can to the earth, the ability to grow crops, the ability to master the beasts of the land, is absolutely critical to human survival. And these deities were seen as the sort of the guardians and the keepers of that agricultural animal realm. So it's just a playground that's rife with dramatic possibility.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe you didn't want to have like sexy Cernunnos, flowing locks, stags.
Right.
You've made him a little bit more demonic. But I also thought that kind of also puts him maybe more into like a Western view of what some sort of entity demon would be. It looks, he looks a little bit like the devil, kind of. So I thought that was an interesting take as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously genre fiends are looking for certain elements. The horror crowd is demanding, and there are expectations that they're coming to the table with, and so we wanted to give them a little bit of that with Cernunnos, and again, just embracing his animal nature. I mean, he's half human, he's half divine, but the divine portion is the natural world. And so we wanted to give him that bestial kind of a little bit, and of course, giving horror fans their creature.
Gotta please the horror fans. So you filmed this in Mississippi. Where did you find this cabin? Was it just, did you just scout around Mississippi? Is it someplace that you knew and stayed? And then also, how did you kind of convert it into this sinister looking, but also very homey look place, like the line of skulls, but also inside it looks very nice and modern. So
yeah, well, it's the film was shot in Lumberton, Mississippi, at Little Black Creek Campground and Park, and we scouted several parks around Mississippi, one in Grenada, Mississippi, and a couple of other spots. But we considered, we felt like this was the best fit, closest approximation to the Black Forest. And the cabin, there's several cabins there on the grounds of Little Black Creek that we had to choose from. But we really liked that this one was 2-story because we wanted to use the stairwell. We really liked the big circular window in the bedroom upstairs. Because we just thought we could create a lot of, a really interesting visual aesthetic with sun or moonlight streaming through that onto our hero couple. And yeah, we wanted the cabin to feel exactly as you described, a bit menacing, and, with the skulls and the various design elements, but at the same time, a bit homely, like, that hey, you might want to throw down a charcuterie and have a couple of martinis in front of the fire, right?
Exactly.
So that juxtaposition was important to us to create something that was a bit foreboding, but at the same, hey, I might vacation there, if I wasn't convinced there were, witches and monsters coming after me.
And maybe if you knew that, you still might want to vacation there, right? You just never know. Different crowds,
Right,
right?
right.
And yeah, I think that's a really good observation because yeah, like that scene with the martinis and the charcuterie plate, I was like, this is really nice. Something terrible is going to happen, but this is very nice right now.
The calm before the storm, right?
Exactly. And so you mentioned having Rachel Nichols on was a big boost. How did you get her involved? Had you worked with her before, or was she just kind of maybe looking to do like a genre film? I mean, I don't know. She kind of, I think she came to prominence almost in a genre film years ago. So maybe she wanted to get back.
Yeah. So our casting director, Brandy Goldman, had cast Rachel in the past and had recommended her. And I was a big fan of Rachel's work now for many years. Of course, she's a veteran of Criminal Minds and Continuum and Star Trek and Conan and GI Joe and all this big stuff. And we just, we reached out to her. We made her an offer. We sent her the script. She liked the script. I was really gratified by the fact that this was Rachel's first film since the outbreak of the pandemic, and she trusted our comparatively small indie team to take good care of her. And she was an absolute delight to work with. Just a terrific actor, terrific human being. Really, one of the things that with indie films, of course, you always need that name or two to give the film a little extra oomph, give the film a little higher profile. And I think that sometimes name actors are reluctant, perhaps rightfully so, to some with indie films, certainly one shot in Mississippi. So I'm always heartened when we do get somebody like Rachel and they come and they shoot one of our films and they have a good experience and they say, hey, I would work with you again in a heartbeat. I mean, to me, that's a badge of honor. And that was the experience we had with Rachel. And so she's wonderful in the film. And anybody who's a Nichols fan out there, I hope they will seek out this film because they won't be disappointed.
Not gonna lie, when that came across my email and it said Rachel Nichols in horror film, I was like, done, sold. That's fine. I'll watch it.
That's the idea.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you liked the film. Did you kind of, I'm trying to think how you like pitch this to her, like, hey, come spend a lovely weekend in the woods and maybe don't get killed. Maybe how did you kind of pitch filming, especially during COVID, right? Like that's amazing that she trusted you during this whole COVID craze.
So one of the cool things about the location is that there are a number of cabins on the location, enough to house our entire cast and crew. So we were sequestered there. And you mentioned that, well, the cabin's kind of warm and nice, and that's not even the nicest cabin on the property. So they're in fact the nicest cabin on the, that would have perhaps been pushing it too far. So she got her own cabin, right, the entire time. The team was sequestered on site. We're testing for COVID 3 or 4 times a week. We have all these other COVID protocols that we're following with sanitation and HEPA filtration and all this stuff. So one of the things she commented on very early on is, I really feel safe with you guys. I don't feel like, COVID is a problem. I feel insulated. And when we were there for those 3 weeks or so on that property, it kind of begins to feel like home. And it was a little bit like film camp, nobody's going in there and we're all testing all the time. So we feel confident that we can hang out with each other and eat together and those types of things because of the protocols that are in place. So it was really ultimately a very, very positive experience, I think. And I really feel like we forged a friendship with Rachel, and we continue to chat and be in touch and talk about not only this film, but sports. She's a big football fan. She's a Patriots fan. We forgive her for that down here in New Orleans. But that's okay. We kicked their butt last week, but I had to give her a little bit of hell for that. But anyway, or other projects, looking for other opportunities to work with her. But it really was a cool experience. It was, of course, harrowing at the same time. COVID protocols, lots of exteriors, weather on this kind of budget. It was probably the hardest film I've done as a director, but at the same time, it was an incredibly rewarding experience.
Yeah, if I get the opportunity to interview her for this film, I'll ask her, about her thoughts on Patriot Saints, and we'll see what she says as well. But yeah, I love that explanation, because it must have been like, the world was kind of crazy at the time. You didn't know what was going to happen. It must have been a nice return to normal to work and be, you're confined, but you're still interacting with people and seeing people and like talking to people. So that must have just been a nice kind of like return to form in the middle of all the craziness that was happening.
It certainly was with this group of people. I mean, just a lot of really cool people working on this show. The cast in particular, Rachel Miles, this was my second time working with Johans. He had been in my film Demons, Elena Sanchez, Christian Stokes, the wonderful Christian Stokes, of course, my brilliant wife, Lindsay, Manon Pages, Tatiana Piper, Sarah Fisher, just everybody committed to the vision and committed to what we were doing and believing in it. You have to have that buy-in with indie film. That's just because you can't buy your way out of problems. You have to have a cast and a crew that's there 100% ready to go, ready to deliver, and these people were.
Definitely, and I'm glad you mentioned Johans, because I loved his character too. He was a lot of fun to see on screen as well. So it sounds like you'd worked with him before. You just kind of reached out or
yeah,
asking.
What an amazing guy. I forgot Chima Chekwa too. I shouldn't leave Chima out, who was our Karanunos. And we asked a whole heck of a lot from him. But Johans, I just love Johans. We have a lot of common ground in our journeys, both as actors and as educators. And I mean, from a very early stage, as this script came into focus, Johans was a name that immediately came to mind. And I just called him up and I said, Johans, I want you to do this, and he did.
That's awesome. And then also you had a role in this, and I wasn't sure if that was that just because it was difficult with budget, because it was difficult to get people in COVID, or is this something that you kind of do if the right role is in a film that you are directing?
I originally started directing films to provide myself more opportunities as an actor. I'm an actor first and foremost, and I saw other indie directors, sort of up by the bootstraps, taking their destiny into their own hands, directing their own stuff. I was part of some of those films as an actor several years ago. And I was inspired to just start doing it myself. And so I've had a role in all of my 6 features.
Oh, wow.
And anytime, whether I'm writing it from the ground up or taking the blueprint of somebody like Mike and developing it, I'm always looking for an opportunity and a role to play, and it has to be right. It has to be in the service of the film. I'm not looking to play the lead in everything, because oftentimes the supporting roles are more interesting anyway. And Arthur in particular there's a lot there. There's a lot of meat on the bone. There was a lot to do. His relationship to his daughter and the lengths he was willing to go to protect her, by the wonderful Rachel Nichols, another cast member that I have.
Oh, there you go. It kind of stalled partway through that last answer.
Oh, I was just going to say that I'm always looking for opportunities as a performer. Acting has always been my first love. I love directing films, but way back when I first approached this medium and this industry wide-eyed, I did it because I wanted to be an actor. So any opportunity I have to be in front of the camera, I want to take advantage of that, as long as it's in the service of the film, and it's a role that I feel like I can do justice to. And I felt that way with Arthur.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I've talked to several writer, director, star combination individuals, and they all say like it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. I would never want to do it again because it was so exhausting to kind of wear all those hats. So maybe because you kind of picked the right role, or maybe because you have the experience. But I love hearing that you keep doing this, as a way to kind of fuel your desire to make movies and your desire to kind of make interesting projects. So
you have to have a strong team around you. You have to have people who are going to give you the skinny, who are going to tell you it is, who are going to keep you honest. and that's with your producers. And I have some really good ones in Lindsay and Wesley and Jim Bullock. Your DP, of course, tape on this one, did a fantastic job. Your first AD, Matt Paul. You have to surround yourself with people that you really feel like you can trust, or it is virtually impossible to wear all those hats.
And so then you make the film, big accomplishment, and then you kind of have to edit it and put it all together still while we're in this crazy world. So what was that like? I mean, this sounds like maybe it was your first time trying to do that as well, or was this something that you'd done before where you had to kind of remotely finish up a project and then try to get it sold?
No, I've never done everything remote like this. Okay. But this is a tried and true post team. My post team are some of my favorite humans on the planet. That includes Jared Hollingsworth, my editor, my composer and oldest friend, Clifton Hyde, John Vogel, post-production sound mix, and Bradley Greer, my creator finisher. Just guys that I've worked with on, at least 4 or 5 films now. I mean, John is actually sound mixed every one of my features.
Oh wow!
So there's a vernacular there. There's they know at this point what I'm going to be looking for and want. I think the trickiest thing is not to be in the editing room, editor, and editing remotely is a bit of a challenge because although of course on every film the director and the editor are not in the same room time, the director or the editor a lot of work and then passing it to the director. But when you really get to the is in the room together.
Yeah, it is a very different experience.
Yeah. All done remotely via Vimeo and links and all that stuff. And I would have to send him time and, we'd get on a call or a Zoom or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that was the most challenging element of doing the post remotely. By the time we got to the final sound mix, at least we were able to sit in the room with John and we had all been vaccinated at that point and we're wearing masks and all that stuff. But at least we could hear it in 5.1 surround in a sort of true approximation of what it was gonna be. So that would have been really tough to try to sound mix remotely.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like trying to edit a document, like something very small and easy between multiple people is a pain. Like I can't even imagine trying to edit a film that has iterations and cuts and trying to keep everything consistent. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, it's tough. It helps to have people who know you know their work, they know artistic inclinations, creative inclinations. I think if this were an entirely new team, it would have been really difficult to beat.
Awesome. And so, one thing that I thought was interesting about this film as well is like to make the Black Forest a real life, kind of come to life. A lot of it's in German. Maybe half the film is in German, and even like Rachel Nichols gets a little German in there as well. Like, did you write it in German? Did you just kind of then rely on like actors who could speak German or translator? Like, are you fluent in German? How did you kind of go about doing this?
We definitely wanted there to be a significant portion of the film in German. And as you point out, I think maybe 35% of the dialogue is in German. I had a little German. Graduate school, I spent 6 weeks in Munich at the Goethe Institute. I have some German because as part of my graduate degree, I had to learn German to read the scholarship in German. Wow. But I'm by no means fluent, and I've lost a lot of what I had. So we definitely required some help in the person of our dialect language coach, Oliver Hoffer, out of New York City, who was, I guess, fortunately for us, not playing bass in Broadway pits and had some time because that's his regular gig. Oh, wow. And so he had time to help us with the German, albeit remotely. Also, Elena Sanchez, who plays Latara in the film, is fluent in German. She has a German parent. She's actually trilingual. She speaks German, English, and Spanish. So she was an absolute miracle to have on this film. And so we had Oliver remotely, and then we had Elena on set helping us along the way. Oliver was really instrumental in the script writing phase when we were trying to get the German right in the script. Mm-hmm. And then Elena on set keeping us honest. But I wanted the German, absolutely, for the authenticity of it. Of course, these people are in Germany. They're going to be speaking German, in spite of the fact that our priestesses of Cernunnos speak many languages. We wanted their first language to be German. And then to just create this sense of otherness, right? Especially for Robin and Leo, but for the audience too, to sort of keep the audience a little bit at arm's length as they were sort of moving into the narrative. I think it heightens the creep factor. It heightens the sense of character and audience isolation to have all that foreign language element in the film.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely right, and it lets you also kind of see Rachel's transformation, or at least progression in the film as you kind of gets more in touch with her past. And then the other thing I love. I think this is actually, I think indie films do this a lot better than maybe some big budget films. Like the effects they seem to be all pretty much practical. Maybe there was a few things of CG, but it feels like mostly everything was old school practical effects. And I imagine you probably picked up those either those skills or people that were good at that from your previous work. But was that kind of always the goal of this film? Was it just kind of what you could throw together because you were trying to film in COVID, you didn't know what you had?
It was absolutely a goal of the film to shoot the vast majority of the effects practically in camera. For one thing, I just think that 9 times out of 10, practical effects look better, unless you have access to Weta or something like Peter Jackson. But 9 times out of 10, practical effects look better. Practical blood effects, in particular, and gore effects, they just sell better. They feel more real, more visceral, and so. Those effects were the result of the collaboration of 3 incredible women: Julie Tosh, our production designer of the last few films, Ashley Treadaway, our makeup department head, and Lindsay, who was, producer, costume designer, playing Hedeka, wearing as many hats as me practically. And I'm really proud of the way they turned out. And we really just wanted to go for it in terms of, I wouldn't say there are choice moments of gore in the film, but when we went for the gore, we went for it big time. And I really wanted to just go hog wild. And then there's a couple of little CGI sweeteners and things like that in the film, but yeah, I was committed to getting those effects in camera as much as possible, and I feel pretty good about what we achieved.
Definitely, it's only one of my pet peeves. If there's something that is CG and it looks like they could have done it the other way, or it just looks off, it always kind of takes me out of the moment. Especially in horror, you don't want that to happen. So
yeah, CG blood is really it's rare that it's done well. And I was just watching a major television show, I won't say what, and the blood effects were CG, and I was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
We know you have the budget. Some of it just, it seems to, I don't know if it's just laziness or, because practical effects and squib work and all that, it takes time to set it up. And of course, the actor is filthy afterwards. There's blood everywhere, and you've got to go take a shower before you can do anything else. But the result is just so much better, in my opinion.
And it also kind of puts you like on the hook, right? You got like one take because this outfit is going to be exploded and covered in blood. So I hope you get it right.
Yeah. Well, make sure we've got doubles or triples if we're going to have a big blood or squib effect. But still, the actor has to clean up, change, right? So that's one thing you really have to be cognizant of on an indie film is time. Those effects take time. Yeah. And you don't just get to do it, and if it doesn't work, immediately do it again, right? You probably got 30 minutes to reset, at minimum on an effect like that.
And then your DP was also your makeup artist because you don't have the budget cost to come over. Yeah. So now I'd like to move. I call it the lightning round. It's just lightweight questions about the film. See how your experiences relate to things that happen in the film. You don't have to answer them. You can pass on them, although I try to keep them very answerable.
Okay.
So when was the last time that you were out in the woods?
On this film.
Oh, there you go.
Actually, no, I take that back. I took a hike at some point during the pandemic in what was that, January or so? I can't remember, with Lindsay and our dogs. But I don't go out in the woods all that often, actually.
Well, I mean, that would make sense. You know what's out there, right? Why would you?
Yeah, yeah.
um, have you ever been hunting?
No,
Okay. And I guess the next one is, have you ever skinned an animal? I'm assuming that's also no, but I don't know, maybe.
no. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm a big animal lover. I'm a big dog rescuer. Linz and I have 5 furry children, all rescue dogs. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I mean, I still eat meat and all that kind of stuff, but I don't want to be the one to take the animal's life. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. What is the creepiest thing you drew as a kid?
I was infatuated with comic books as a kid, and so I would often try my hand at drawing comic book villains. And I have to say that my Joker was super creepy. Like I think maybe like a bit of foreshadowing toward the Heath Ledger Joker,
Mhm.
but maybe without the long hair. I was still in the old school Cesar Romero hair thing. But the face was really, really creepy.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm trying to think, and that Joker didn't like come to you at night, right? Like that was just in your vision. That was in your head.
That Joker didn't come to me at night. No, although there were some things that came to me at night, but
they were less creepy than Joker. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, unfortunately, night terrors have sort of been part of my reality since I was a child. But it was never the Joker, thank God.
Yeah, that would be very unsettling. Unless it's Heath Ledger. I mean, I don't know. If Heath Ledger came by, I'd probably ask him a couple questions and hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Do you chew ginger gum?
Yes,
All right.
I
It
do.
was a very interesting thing for him to have in that exact moment. I was like, that is very, very lucky.
I absolutely use ginger gum. I absolutely loathe being nauseated. So I have like 37 nausea remedies in my cabinet, one of which is ginger gum.
There we go. Do you have any sort of like stuffed animals the wrong word, but any sort of like taxidermied item, like a deer head or a stuffed wild animal, something like that?
The only skulls that I have or taxidermy, I don't have any taxidermy, but I do have some skulls that have been used in our films as props that we've kept. Most of them are fabricated or fake. There might be a couple that are real. Some of the fabricated ones are actually hanging on the wall behind this curtain. Oh. So we do hang on to props from our films and display them. But no, I don't have any legit taxidermy in my house.
It seems like a very practical thing to have, right? You never know when you're going to need, especially if everything closes down. You're like, well, what do we have? Right. We got some skulls here. Have you ever had any sort of like creepy wilderness experience? Like you're out camping and you hear something out, or or an animal like comes up to your tent or anything along those lines, or someone breaks into your cabinet. I hope that's never happened, but I don't know. I don't know what you're on.
I try to avoid camping at any cost. Mm-hmm. I'm not really a big outdoor type, though. I do enjoy hiking, and when I was in Los Angeles, in particular, I used to go hiking in Topanga Canyon, and while I was on a hike in Topanga Canyon, I learned that a mountain lion had attacked a hiker, and while to my knowledge, the mountain lion was never around me or my party. That was quite harrowing to find out while I'm in the canyon on the trail where a mountain lion attack took place. So that's probably the closest thing I've had to a terrifying nature experience. With regard to an animal, I mean, I lived through Hurricane Katrina. That was a terrifying nature experience. But in terms of animal attack, I would say that's the closest thing.
Yeah, and both of those are very terrifying. But in the mountain lion, like how would you know if it's watching you, right? You have no idea. Right. So, and the last question is inspired by our demigod's eyes, his red eyes. Have you ever played laser tag?
Yes, I have played laser tag.
Excellent.
And I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I wish more people were still playing laser tag.
I used to, the laser tag place by me, we used to have this awesome event like every Friday night where they would like shut it down at 10 o'clock and they would just convert the whole place into like a capture the flag. And so you had to like register, and they would have like half the people in this, the arcade area and half the people in the maze, and you kind of go in and try to play capture the flag. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, look, I grew up on sci-fi movies. I loved Star Wars and Alien, and so anytime I was playing laser tag, I was in one of those movies. I was Han Solo. I was with my blaster, and I especially love the laser tag arenas that had the black lights, and everything would go neon green and pink and blue, and kudos, extra props if they had a fog machine. But all laser tag arenas weren't created equal, as you probably know. I mean, you had some that went absolutely all out, and then some that were just some black flats and tape.
That fog has a distinct smell. I remember that fog smell.
Yeah, for sure.
And so the film is out October 15th, 2021. You're promoting it, you're getting it ready. I imagine with your resume and the amount of work that you're doing, you have other films as well. So after Demigod is out, where can people look to see your future work? What are you working on next? Do you have anything in the hopper?
Well, I do. I have a script that I've just completed with Lindsay that we're looking to shoot next year. It's a bit of a departure. I've described it as if you put a Noah Baumbach film, a Wong Kar-wai film, a Wes Anderson film, and a Duran Duran music video in a blender, blended them up. This is what you get.
Oh wow!
So it's
a lot of blood, I assume.
It's right. Well, no, it's really not. It's more character drama with bonkers character drama with a musical element. We already have our buddy Jeremy London attached for that one, so we hope to be shooting that one next year. So I'll keep you posted. Don't want to give you the title because it might change 3 or 4 times between now and release, but do keep an eye out for it. I'm really excited to work with Jeremy in a lead role. He's been on me to cast him in a lead role since we've been working together these last few years, and so I just wrote one for him, me and Linz. I would also encourage people to check out our other work, The Dinner Party, Hallowed Ground, Demons, The Hollow, and The Historian. All of them are out there on the usual suspects on Amazon or iTunes or Google Play or Fandango Now or whatever. And if you love Demigod, or even if you just like it, leave us a review somewhere, whether that's on IMDb or Amazon or iTunes or whatever platform you choose. And then the last thing I would say is, if you have the opportunity to see it in the movie theater, and if you feel safe doing so, please go see it in the theater. We shot this on anamorphic widescreen. It's meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible. It will be in several major cities: Los Angeles, Seattle, Detroit, Boston, New Orleans, Dallas, Cleveland, a few others that I'm probably not thinking of. Hattiesburg, Mississippi, not far from where we shot it.
There you go. Return to home.
Yeah, where we'll be having a premiere event. But do try to see it on the largest screen you can with the best sound you can. This is one of my favorite Clifton Hyde scores. He really outdid himself with the score of this film, and just gave me everything I could possibly want. So, and give me a follow on Instagram, Miles Doleac, Doleac. You can find me on Instagram, and I'll be posting out a lot about the film, I have a feeling, over the next couple of weeks.
Perfect. That sounds fantastic. Thanks so much for your time. And this is Miles Doleac, the writer, or the co-writer, director, and star of Demigod, which is coming to theaters if you're comfortable, or digital if you're still hesitant, on October 15th, 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
That was Miles Doleac, the director and co-writer of Demigod, which is coming to theaters and on demand on October 15th, 2021. It's a wilderness adventure that will get you in the mood for Halloween and all the other October festivities. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.